when Josh and I measured my arms last, they were 18 and a half with no pump.
Yeah.
I've probably lost about a half an inch to an inch off this arm since my elbow started acting up.
I know my arm lost 1.5 inches when I had the elbow accident, but I mean, of course, I wasn't using my arm at all. That was my no fap month. By accident.
By accident. You probably should have made twice as many gains by no fapping.
Yeah. What do you think about no fapping?
I have not looked into the research. I know there is some research on it. I remember hearing Andrew Huberman. I know he's a contentious topic.
I'm interested in him. I like his stuff.
I like him when he talks about neuroscience.
Yeah.
When he talks about things outside of his scope.
Yeah, like training.
He doesn't really know what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he said in a podcast, I remember listening to this like several years ago, he said if you refrain from masturbation, it increases testosterone negligibly, like not to any amount that's going to like result in better gains.
Yeah.
But then he said it also, if you do masturbate, increases testosterone temporarily as well for a short period of time afterward.
Yeah. I've seen that research as well, and so I'm like, it's not worth it. I don't even care. It helps more. You got to do something.
Yeah,
not abstaining from sex to get bigger biceps.
Yeah, I think like I definitely think porn is really bad for you. It's really bad for your brain.
Inherently, yeah, but I'm like, not a fan.
I think masturbation in moderation is probably fine.
Go for it, guys.
You heard it here. Coach Greg says go for it.
Absolutely. Get her to give you that hot tua. Just don't film it like freaking Drake did.
Right on.
Harder than last time.
Especially when you're doing your masturbation in moderation. Harder than last time. So like I told you a little earlier, I'm dealing with an elbow pain problem, so I can't really train biceps very well. So the only movement that I can really do is this one.
Is it both arms?
It actually is both arms. It's mostly the right one.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to get the same issue on this side.
Yeah.
So the only bicep movement I can do is a preacher curl loaded this way.
Okay.
Because obviously if you go this way where your arm is vertical, the hardest part of the movement is right here. And so it doesn't hurt my arm to curl, to like put a lot of effort in here. But if I were to do it like this, where like the end range is loaded the most, then it would just ruin it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a way that I've like taken advantage of, like manipulated resistance profile so that I can still train hard, but in a place where it's not going to hurt my elbow as much. So I was thinking we'll just do, I mean, you can train whatever bicep exercise you want.
I'll try yours and we'll see how it works.
This is what I'm going to do. And I think for my left arm, I have to do a different exercise.
Okay.
Which is odd, but with this movement, I got to be really controlled and minimize my range of motion because otherwise it'll mess my elbow up. But this is a movement that the only movement I can do for biceps on this side. And so I've been able to continue to train biceps despite the injury, progressively overload, and maintain most of my muscle. So here's a question for you.
What's that?
Do you and Dr. Mike actually have beef?
Oh, he has beef with me for sure. I don't have beef with him, but he absolutely does.
Yeah.
Without question.
Because you like to pick fun at a lot of people, and some people probably take
I like to use what's trending, and he's like the #1 fitness influencer right now with over 90 million views a month. He talks openly about the crazy side effects he's getting from steroids. And so how am I not going to use his information, which everyone is listening to, and use that information to help people in terms of them not wanting to use steroids? Like when you listen to Mike talk about wanting to rip apart dogs and like the crazy anxiety he has, he can't feel basic human emotions. I'm like, if you hear that, it's going to deter people from using steroids. And so why wouldn't I talk about that?
Well, so why is he upset with you?
I could get into a 1 hour deep-rooted issue on why, but I don't think that it's fair to him to not have him be part of it right now.
I respect that.
I'd love to talk to him with him in a video, but he so far has refused, so maybe one day.
I respect that. What do you think about mind-muscle connection? Overrated or underrated?
I would say it's underrated because most people don't even think about it. So I think it's got a great benefit. You should be thinking about the muscle that you're working while you're doing the exercise. Because if you say you're doing a back exercise and you can't see the muscle, you might be just doing biceps. You're not even feeling the back work. But if you actually think about the muscle contracting, you can get a much better feeling and you can do the exercise more properly and get better form. So I think it's underrated.
I actually think it's overrated. So I'm going to disagree with
Yeah, we'll see why though.
I just think it's overrated because, at least within fitness enthusiasts, everyone talks about feeling the muscle and squeezing the muscle,
Sure,
and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, you need to perform an exercise correctly. So I'm not saying my muscle connection is bad or it's useless. I just think it's overrated. I think, especially fitness enthusiasts, recreational bodybuilders, they think it's more important than it is. Like I said earlier, if you're performing an exercise that is loading a muscle's function, only that muscle can perform that function. And it's going to perform that function whether you're thinking about it or feeling it perform that function or not. So like I said, I'm not saying that you should just grip and rip everything. You should use control and good technique. But if you're not feeling a muscle, it's not the end of the world as long as you're doing an exercise or you're loading a function that muscle performs.
So for example, you showed me some new exercise I've never done before. And so while I was doing it, I was thinking, okay, I want to feel my muscle in this new motion because I don't know what to do. Rather than just kind of lifting the weight, because it's a new exercise. I don't know if I'm using proper technique. As much experience as I have, if it's a new exercise I've never done, I don't know if I'm doing it right. So I'm thinking, okay, my muscle connection, so I'm feeling the lat as I was pulling down. You're giving me cues, keep the elbows in. I'm like, okay, yeah, that feels good. I'm doing that. Even this exercise, which I've never actually done, I'm doing that. I'm thinking, okay, I want to really feel that bicep as I'm working versus I'm just in la-la land, just going through the motions and just lifting. So I think we're kind of on the same page, but thinking of it in a different way.
Yeah, I was going to say, you definitely don't want to just go through the motions. But for example, with that lat movement that we did, your lat can't not work.
Yeah,
even if
right.
you're not feeling your lat moving, if you're moving your arm from here to here in that arm path, your lat's doing it.
Yeah, regardless.
Same thing with this, right?
If I
your
hadn't
bicep
have thought,
is doing it, even if you're not feeling a ton of bicep.
Yeah.
Your bicep is doing that.
Even if I didn't think about it, it's still going to work. I'm just trying to perhaps optimize, thinking I don't want to get my shoulder too high or lift sloppy or like just let the bar go up too quick. So I'm just trying to like really concentrate. I think it helps. So is it overrated, underrated? I don't think it really matters. Like,
no,
does it really matter? No.
As long as you're not too far on one side or the other, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're not so focused on feeling it that you're not trying hard.
But you're not putting the effort in.
Or you're trying so hard, you're just gripping and ripping and ripping.
Yeah, you got to do both.
The other thing is too, like my muscle connection's not the same thing in my head as like good technique.
Yeah.
Those are a little different, but
yeah, you can feel the muscle work, but not even do the proper range of motion.
Yeah, like I can feel my bicep just doing
Yeah, I
this.
can just do this and not flex. I got great mind muscle, but I'm not actually doing all that much. I'm just an isometric contraction.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned that you thought you were probably 18% body fat. I would say you're probably a little bit less than that, but
yes.
What are your feelings on maintaining, for example, staying this percent body fat, let's say it's 15, and just putting on muscle from here at 240 pounds versus saying, no, I gotta eat 500 calorie surplus for 12 weeks and gain 10 pounds and get to 250 and then cut for 5 weeks and then just going back up and down like that. What do you think the difference is overall?
So this is a great question because I remember watching your videos like 6-7 years ago, thinking and hearing about maintaining.
Yeah.
And I know this is something that you get a lot of pushback with.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I think it's a semantics issue. What I mean by that is when you say maintaining, you don't actually mean perfect maintenance. What you mean is like not bulking, dirty bulking, like not hammering food into you and growing slowly. And like if you just stick around maintenance, you're inevitably going to grow.
I mean, just like basically, if you were to say, I want to get more muscles, what should I do? I would say, do what you're doing.
Yeah.
You look great right now, stay there, and in a year from now, you're perhaps 5 pounds bigger with more muscle at the same body fat versus somebody saying, no, that's gonna be too slow. You need to eat more food, go up to 250, 260, and then do a mini cut, and then keep doing cycles of 3 months of bulk, 2 months of cut, 3 months of bulk, 2 months of cut, versus I'm like, no, you look good, just always look good and put on muscle.
Yeah, so my approach to it is very much that. The data right now shows that to maximize muscle protein synthesis, you only need about a 10% calorie surplus at the most. I think they compared 5, 10, 15, 20% surpluses, and the growth between 10, 15, and 20 for muscle was the same, but the fat gain from 15 and 20 was more than 10.
Right.
And so I'm at the point now being an advanced lifter where if I'm bulking, I take it super, super, super slow, and I try to gain like maybe a half a pound every week to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is what I've done over this last 2 years. I've just finished a pretty successful bulk.
Yeah.
I went from 212 to like I'm about 240, 242 now, and I went from probably like maybe 12% body fat to like 18, something like that. Those are ballpark numbers. But I think you should take bulks really slowly, especially the more advanced you are, and you should take cuts a little bit more aggressively so that you can spend more time in a surplus. But when I say surplus, I mean a very small one.
I think as long as you have enough food to come into the gym and do like we both did, I think we got great pumps.
Yeah.
I had energy throughout.
Yep.
I think both of us, despite our differences in body fat, I think we're both able to put on muscle.
You call me fat?
A little bit fatter than me, but no. I think what I'd call you is at an ideal body fat percentage. I would consider me on the extreme high end of being lean.
Yeah, you're definitely
and
pretty
I think
lean.
because I'm on HRT, I'm allowed or able to do this. I think if I were 100% natural, I couldn't do it this level. And being natural in my past, I found anything below 12 where I started to suffer that I didn't feel like I could push the same. But being on HRT now, even though I'm like on a lower calorie diet compared to my body, I still have testosterone levels in the 500s. I just did a test, and I'm on 140 milligrams a week. My test is at 565 nanograms per deciliter. I feel great. Now, if I weren't on HRT, that might suppress my testosterone levels too low, and I wouldn't make gains. So I don't preach being single-digit body fat, but I always say somewhere around 15%. That's ideal for growth, and so I would just do what you're doing.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely think you don't want to get too fat, and if you're going to focus on muscle growth, it should be slow. So I think I probably advise a bit more of a surplus than it sounds like you do, but we're in the same boat in the sense that like you're not going to create more growth by hammering more food down.
One thing I noticed is most of the guys who are going on bulks, they're already bulked. Like let's say if you're at 15%, the average guy is probably 20, 25%. You're already bulked. If you're at 20 to 25% body fat, let's say 25, you're already bordering on being obese. So why are you bulking if you're obese? There's but I'm skinny fat. Well, more calories isn't going to result in more growth. You're already eating enough.
Yeah, and if you have a higher body fat percentage, you're going to be able to maintain muscle growth while in a bit of a deficit.
Exactly.
Like I would prefer, I'll probably put 5 more pounds on over the next like 10 to 12 weeks, maybe even longer, maybe 4 months. And then I'll be at 245, probably sitting around 18, 19% body fat, and that will be the fattest that I get. Because anything more than that, you're just gonna have to cut that much more when you go into a deficit, so it's just gonna be that much longer. So yeah, I'm in the same way. Like I would consider myself pretty much peak bulk right now.
Yeah, so I mean, if you wanna bulk, if you wanna cut, if you wanna main gain, if you wanna like, what do you call it, recomp? I mean, do what makes you happy because it has to be fun. Just like we said, your training has to be fun, your diet has to be fun. And so if you're bored of being at 12%, you want to go on a mini bulk, well, go on a mini bulk. But just because you're bored doesn't mean that somebody else who's 12% can't just main gain.
Nice.
You see Drake's little Drake the Snake Robert video? Did you hear about that one?
No.
Oh, he's naked, jerking off, and I'm not even joking. They went viral. Just flopping around.
Choking the chicken, eh?
Somebody showed it to me. I'm like, okay. I've talked about him in about 4 videos.
Yeah.
Drake's little taco. Not little.
Not little, he said.
Not little. He didn't give 2 shits. He's like, yeah, I did it, so what? He's so famous, he doesn't give a shit.
He's untouchable.
You may as well leave into it. You're gonna be embarrassed about that?
Not if it's not little.
Not hard though. Floppy. Like a floppy taco. A floppy disk. I'm so old I used to use a floppy disk. I'm serious. We used to have floppy disks back in the day. I have those SD cards. I got all my university projects on these little floppy cards. They're like,
Not chiseled in stone?
yeah, it was about there.
Yeah.
That was the year before. I had a VIC 20, my first computer. VIC 20.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like, there was then a Commodore 64, 64 kilobytes. VIC 20 had 20 kilobytes.
Oh.
Not megabytes.
Kilobytes,
Not
yeah.
gigabytes, kilobytes. Yeah, we used to write our own programs back then.
Man.
Yeah.
And I thought school was hard.
I actually taught computers one year.
Really?
I don't even barely know how to use the internet, and I taught computers one year. But all you have to do is know 5% more than them, and you're good. And it was grade 8. So I was okay. I got by.
Words to live by.
Yeah. If you want to sound smart, just know 5% more than the person you're talking to. You sound like a genius.
It's like the old running away from a bear trick. You don't gotta be faster than the bear. Just faster than everybody else.
Exactly. Faster than that
Or at least
person
the slowest
behind
person.
you. Oh. Phew. Phew.
So you're using a lot of control there. So
I'm trying.
No, so that's my question. Do you think time under tension is the same as control? And do you think it's underrated or overrated?
I don't think time and tension and control are the same thing. You could do a lot of time and attention and have no control. I could have a really light weight and just flop around like Drake the Snake. But yeah, I think there's a big difference. But I think you need to have both time under tension and control at the same time.
Yeah.
Never ego lift.
Yeah.
As I got older, I used lighter weights and more control. When I was a kid, it was sets of 5 and 6 all the time. Whatever could get it up, because I thought the heavier the weight, the bigger my muscles are going to be. But man, I was born like 1,000,000 years ago, so we didn't have the science-based training. And now you can see you can get the same growth from doing more reps. And so I'm like, I'm 48. I don't want to get injured.
Yeah.
So my goal in training is to be safe, stimulate the muscle, and be able to get there. Not have too much soreness the next day.
Yep.
Like usually I don't really feel much soreness, and then I can train my whole body every 3 days.
Yeah, so I would agree with you. I don't think time under tension and control are the same thing, but they're often talked about like they are. Like a lot of people will be like, you need to lift a lot of time under tension. And what they mean by that is like constant slow movement, keeping the muscle under tension. But like you said, time under tension is just the amount of time that the muscle is under tension for.
Yeah.
Control is how well you execute the movement. Those are different.
Yes.
Control is always a good idea, but
Yes.
more time under tension does not mean more growth. And that's because, like I just explained earlier, if you have
Get near
a
failure.
minute of time under tension, it's only the time under tension close to the end of the set where you're getting to failure.
Yeah.
That's putting the largest muscle fibers or the highest threshold motor units under tension. All the tension up to that point was putting the smaller, less important muscle fibers that are less potential for growth. They are the ones that are under tension the whole set leading up to that point. And so you could do a set that's like 10 minutes long, but if it's only the last like 20 seconds that matter, then the whole 9 minutes and 40 seconds before that or whatever, it wasn't really producing a ton of growth, and it was just creating fatigue.